Hey everyone, welcome into Magnolia Photography SC. I am Jeff House and I am a wildlife and portrait photographer based out of the Charleston, South Carolina region. This is really just an introduction video. This is my very first video on this particular channel, so I wanted to just say hi and welcome you to it. I hope that you find this channel informative. I hope you find it useful. And I hope that you decide to subscribe and follow the channel as new videos are released. One of the things that I wanted to touch on as well is the fact that my residence here in Charleston, South Carolina, my wife and I moved here in February of this year, 2024. And one of the things that I first did when I got to Charleston was join some wildlife photography groups on Facebook, because I saw what a great idea it will be to network with some people, right? Learn who the locals are that are more serious wildlife photographers and pick their brains a little bit about some of the hot spots and great areas here in Charleston to do wildlife photography. And of course, what I have learned very quickly is it is filled with wildlife and there are a lot of great opportunities here. So I am looking forward to the future and all of the wildlife photography that I am able to capture. But being part of this group has very quickly also led me down another path. And that is, a lot of people want to know, hey, how do you get your photos from the time you capture it in the camera to the time that you either post it online or print a photo book or whatever your end use is for the images? How do you get them to look so clean and so polished and so professional? And so I thought I would just make this quick video, as I mentioned in the beginning, because I wanted to introduce myself and I want to give just a high level overview of what I do from an editing standpoint. I will be diving in to my actual editing process as we go forward in future videos. But again, just a good idea to kind of have a high level overview of what I'm doing. So I am a professional photographer. I don't do it full time in the sense of professional photography. It is something that I do in conjunction with a full-time job. But I have been doing it professionally since 2012, and I do have experience in photographing weddings as well as portraiture, as I mentioned. That includes headshots, senior portraits, engagement sessions, those types of things. And then over the past several years, I have really gotten into wildlife photography, and anyone who likes wildlife photography will understand how it just kind of reaches up and grabs you and just sucks you right in, right? And you instantly fall in love with it. It is such an amazing genre of photography, and it comes with a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles, and there's a lot of stuff to learn in the world of wildlife photography. So I thought this channel would be great for the beginner to, maybe intermediate photographer who is looking to learn more about wildlife photography, looking to learn more about how to edit your wildlife photos and kind of how to bring it all together from beginning to end. So that is really my goal and my intention here. So let me kind of give you a little overview of my editing process, what I do from beginning to end. And the first thing that I really want to communicate about myself is that when it comes to my photography, I am a huge, huge believer that we want to take every step possible to retain the most creative control that we can as photographers. I think that's hugely, hugely important so that we can really develop our own style and create images that really fit our vision. So it really starts with image capture for me. I'm a Sony shooter, by the way, just as a side note. I don't really think it matters what brand of camera you use. We'll refer a lot to Sony and Nikon and Canon because they are really the three biggest camera manufacturers in the world who are really relevant in the world of wildlife photography. I used to shoot Nikon, but switched over to Sony many years ago. And really the only reason that I switched was I was moving from a DSLR camera to a mirrorless camera. And I really just kind of felt like at that point, Nikon was light years behind everybody and just wasn't catching up with the technology. And Sony just felt like the right fit for me. I felt like it gave me the most creative freedom, the most creative control. And as I just mentioned, that's a huge, huge aspect for me when it comes to my photography. So I do shoot with the Sony a7R5, and if you're not familiar with that camera, it is one of their top cameras in their lineup. It's pretty much right behind the A1 and the A9 III now. But the thing that I love about this camera is the megapixels. It's a 61 megapixel camera, high megapixels, and that can be very useful when it comes to wildlife photography because it gives you a lot of ability to crop the image without losing a lot of detail. There's plenty of resolution there to heavily crop the image and still have very sharp photos. That being said, when I'm photographing, anytime I'm photographing, I'm always shooting in the RAW format. Now, of course, you can shoot in JPEG or RAW, and obviously the disadvantage to RAW file format is the large file size. But when it comes to the creative control, that is really everything that fits in my theory and my belief, and that's why I go that route. When it comes to photo editing, that is where we can start to see a lot of differences between photographers, right? And it's not a science. Photo editing is 100% an art. There is no right or wrong answer. As we go into those future videos and I start to show you my process, it's really just a jumping off point for you, right? It's to give you some ideas, to give you that starting point if you're just getting into the photo editing part or looking to increase your skills in the photo editing part. You have to edit your photos in a way that fits your style, that fits the images you're trying to produce, and really just kind of looks good to you. It feels right to you. Again, there's no right or wrong answer here. But when it comes to editing, I use 4 programs. I subscribe to Adobe and I get their photography plan, which includes both Lightroom Classic and it includes Photoshop. And now there are many downsides to Adobe. There are many issues with Adobe. And if you can, take some time and search YouTube, you will find plenty of videos that kind of reveal and review some of those issues that Adobe presents to creatives. But for me, it works pretty well. It's a pretty good system. I'm not having a ton of problems with Adobe. I just have these 2 products. And I like the fact that I always have the latest and greatest versions. And there seems to be a lot of updates over the past couple of years with these products. So I just like having those features, those new features, always available to me as soon as Adobe pushes them out to us. So that is why I go that route. But I use Lightroom on every single photo that I edit. Lightroom is a great way to store your photos. It's also a great way to edit your photos. And over the past several years, it's become an even better way to edit your photos because Lightroom has gotten very, very powerful in many regards. It didn't used to be quite as powerful, but their new masking features that they have inside of Lightroom have really, for me, been a game changer because they've gotten much more complex, much more detailed, and they allow you a lot of creative freedom. And again, we keep reiterating that creative freedom, but that is why I stick with Adobe Lightroom and why Lightroom is such a huge part of my editing process. The other program that I use all the time with Lightroom, and I use it as a plugin. Keep in mind, all of these products can pretty much be used as a standalone product. And the next product that I'm going to reference can do exactly that. But I use it as a plugin with Lightroom because it makes my workflow in my process just much easier. I can go right from Lightroom into this product, make whatever processing changes I want to make, and then very easily return it back into Lightroom. That particular program is Topaz Photo AI. Now, this is a great program that I use for reducing the noise in my photos, especially my wildlife photos, because as you know, if you're a wildlife photographer, we may not have the best quantity of light, right? Sometimes we're shooting in the early mornings or the early evenings when wildlife tends to be a little bit more active. And so we might have beautiful light. The sun angle may be gorgeous. It may give us some beautiful orange and red tones that create a very dramatic and interesting lighting situation. But the quantity of light is the real issue. And sometimes we have to shoot at higher ISO values. And of course, that increases noise and grain. And there are some myths and some things that we can do with shooting at higher ISOs to get cleaner looking images. That will be something that we cover in probably a very near future video. But again, those are the challenges that we face in wildlife photography. So Topaz AI does an absolutely amazing job with cleaning up the noise in your images and sharpening them as well. Now, I will point out, these are both features that exist inside of Lightroom Classic. There is a noise reduction part of the software, and there is a sharpening part of the software. And I have done pretty extensive research with my photos, running both of them through both programs. And quite honestly, at the end of the day, I just find that Topaz does a better job, in my opinion. I like the look of the images when all is said and done. So that is why I've incorporated that into my workflow. And I've used Topaz now for years. So big fan of their product, and they offer a free trial. So check it out. Do the same thing. Take a bunch of photos, run it through Lightroom, run it through Topaz, see what you like better. Again, no right or wrong answer here. This is all up to you, what you like as part of your workflow and what you like when you look at your specific results. The next program that I use, I mentioned I get Photoshop, right, with the monthly subscription fee that I have with Adobe. Now, Photoshop, for me and my workflow, is something that I use very sparingly. Photoshop is really something that is more used when you have more complex edits, or you need to make edits that require a little bit more detail or precision. So that is where I use Photoshop. And it's same thing. I can take the photo right from Lightroom into Photoshop, do the edits, and return it back. It's very, very seamless and works very, very well. And lastly, the fourth program that I mentioned was Luminar Neo. Now, Luminar Neo is a really interesting program, and it was, I think, one of the leaders when it comes to AI photo processing. And it offers a lot of unique aspects. And one of the things that I think it does really well are sky replacements. So if that is something that you believe in or that you'll include in your photo editing, you can buy different skies and you can add them in there. And it really offers you a great way to change out a sky very, very quickly, or add a sky very, very quickly. And again, this is something that can be done in Photoshop, but you know, when I compare the two, Luminar Neo just seems to be the program that I most prefer for those types of edits. There are a lot of other functions inside of Luminar Neo as well. There's things for portrait editing. There's things for landscape editing. So there's all sorts of different features, and that'll be some of the stuff that we're covering in these upcoming future videos. Is how do you edit for wildlife photographers, right? Because new people to Lightroom or Photoshop often feel overwhelmed. Like, how am I going to learn all this? I don't know all these tools. I don't need all these tools. Keep in mind, a lot of these features, especially Photoshop, it's built for graphic designers. You only need to use a fraction of the tools inside of these programs. So learning it and mastering these tools, or getting really good at using these tools, is not going to be nearly as overwhelming as you might think. And again, we'll be covering all of these types of tools and features that are most valuable to wildlife photographers in future videos. All right, guys, I think this is where I am going to cut off this video. Again, wanted to introduce myself, wanted to give you just a quick overview of what I do in my processing. In the next videos, we're going to be taking a look at some of my photos. We're going to be taking a look deeper at my editing process, and we'll be going over some of the tools and features that are going to help you to create those very polished and professional wildlife photos. Hey, again, if you like this video, found it useful, please like it, subscribe to the channel. I would deeply appreciate that. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.